Hi there and welcome to my studio. My name is Gideon, I'm also known as Gideonslight, and I am a creatively fit coach. Come join me in my studio as we play and have fun at the canvas and in our art journals. What are you waiting for? Here we go. Hello everyone, welcome to my studio. Today we are going to just play with the next page in my art journal and dealing with the theme of Bali. So for today's inspiration, I used this photograph that I took of this beautiful installation at one of the temples. And they've got the most beautiful orange brick. So obviously I've enhanced the photograph and really pushed the color envelope on this architecture, and this helped me to really make this more colorful, more vibrant, and to really celebrate this absolute phenomenal piece of architecture that I saw on one of the walls in front of the temple. Now, like I said before, gateways, doorways, things like that are very important and revered and sacred in Bali. And the stonemasons there, this is literally hand carved, is absolutely amazing. All of the craft work in Bali has been so inspirational, whether that be wood, stone or any other material. So they are quite creative, these people, so that is phenomenal. So I want to use this as my main feature for today in my art journal, and so I want to just create some background papers and play around with some of the things that I have in my studio to add some collage elements to my project. Excuse me. So this is going to be my color theme for today, and with my previous printing and paper making session, I worked with a lot of greens and blues and golds. So I feel that this element is missing in my color palette. So I've brought my jelly plate and I've brought some tools out of my kitchen, ordinary things that I want to try and make some marks with to create some interesting collage papers. I also have stacks of tissue paper from the backing that I pulled off some of the printed napkins that I like to use. So now I have all of these blank tissue papers that we're going to play with today. We're going to play with some of the acrylic inks that I've got, and also, like I said, I've got my jelly plate and my brayer here to just create some interesting background prints that we are going to play with. So without further ado, let us get started. So I'm going to just put this aside because I don't want that to get any color on it. And I thought that we should start with playing with some of the inks that I've got. And I've selected some orange in various tones. This one is very bright. This is from Dala Acrylic, and this is his beautiful flame orange, and this is just a beautiful orange but a little bit more creamy. So I will add a complete supply list in the description of this video, so that if you're interested to get exactly the same, that you can try. Some of these things are only local, like Atlas and Dala is all South African brands, so you must find something at your local art supply store that is available in your country, wherever you are from. So I thought, this is all experimental. I have no clue how this is going to turn out. So what I do have here on my table is just some wax paper, and that is just helping me to protect my table from all the little elements that we're going to play with, and to try and keep things tidy and neat. It also then provides for me an extra sheet of wax paper like this, especially if you're going to play on tissue paper, to carry the whole thing, to support it like that, because tissue paper is so delicate, and if it gets wet it might just stick and tear. But it's all part of the fun we're going to have. So let me draw my chair up a little bit closer, and there's one element that I'm missing that I just want to pull closer, and that is my water spray. Oh, forgive me for making such a noise. So I thought today, let's just see what happens if we play with our inks on this paper. And the idea now is just to create some background collage papers that you can use to fill up blank spaces on your collage design. And I'm gonna just get right in with some water and some orange, and I'm just spraying it with water. Now this is just a bottle that I've recycled from my cosmetics kit. There is absolutely just water in here, but this mechanism is absolutely perfect, and why throw something away if you can reuse it, right? So I'm all about reusing and recycling, because it does make our world a better place. And now I'm just gonna switch over here to a brighter orange and just squirt that on there. Like I said, I've got no exact plan with this particular experiment. I just want to see what happens if we stain these beautiful tissue papers and just allow the water to spread the inks. Now this is where this extra sheet of wax paper is going to be useful, because now I can just pick it all up and just allow some of these inks to flow on the tissue paper and spread out a little bit more. And as it dries, it will be able to be pulled away from the wax paper with no problem. What have we got here? I think the black, oh, there's a drop that came out. Oh well, it's on there now. Let's add some more. Just forgive all the noises in my garden. It is Friday and the garden services were just here, but I did wait until they gave me the go-ahead. They are done with their tasks for the day, so that you guys don't have to listen to all the grass cutting and machinery in the background. So here I just added some of the antelope brown, which is also quite a nice golden brown from Dala and Ronnie, and just adding water to this to spread out. So I'm literally going to leave this now. I'm going to put this somewhere to dry, and when we come back to play in our art journal a little bit later, I am going to try and incorporate some of this beautiful new collage papers that I've made into my collage. So let me move this aside, and then we can do another one. So let me grab another piece of wax paper. It's a smaller piece, but it's okay. It's just to stabilize the paper. Let's play with some of the magenta, but I'm going to start with some of my water spray now to just saturate this tissue paper already a little bit. And now this is just magenta, and let's bring some of that oranges back as well, because I feel magenta and orange work so well together. lighter orange. I absolutely love these little patterns that it now makes, and that is something that can't be replicated. It's just the magic of being creative and just playing with some color in your studio and allowing the material that you're playing with to just give you some inspiration and some beautiful moments. I'm going to rush over to the side with this delicate one. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Whee! It can be a lot of fun. So you can see this is a messy, creative, expressive session, and this is why I suggest having your studio set up for you before you commence with the printing session, to allow everything to be in place, so that as you create, you are immediately able to absorb and take action, because it's actually quite a fast process to create some of these beautiful, delicate paper moments. Let me just distribute some of this ink here on a little bowl, because what I would like to try here with my script brush is just some mark making, and just allow that to happen. What I like about the script brush is it has a long filament, and I'm holding it at the back, and it just helps me create interesting little moments. I can add to this tissue paper. So like I said in the first episode, you don't have to go out to the art supply store to purchase expensive decoupage papers, although if that is what you want to do, please be my guest. But I do think that there's so many materials around us that we can use that we don't think about using because we have no idea. So hopefully this will spark some inspiration in your world so that you can see what is possible. Let's put that aside to dry. So the advantage of working with tissue paper is, first and foremost, it is affordable. These are literally the backing tissue papers that I pull off the napkins that I buy, that I also like to use as a collage element. So instead of throwing it away or just using it as a rag, I am now using it to create beautiful background papers with. And the nice thing about that is that it becomes very translucent when you use it as an art element. Another thing that I like to do is just use some of the packaging paper that comes with my stock. So this is recycled paper. They obviously get it in rolls. It literally is a perforated sheet, so it's unlimited, and then they roll it up and put it in the boxes. So instead of throwing this away, this becomes fabulous free art resources. I didn't have to pay a cent for this paper, so I like to use them as well. So I like to just crease it a little bit to give it some character, some personality, and just to really make this piece of paper look a little bit aged, like I've had it for years in a drawer somewhere, and that's also quite a lot of fun. Now let me get another piece of my wax paper out. Where is the seal? There we go. I'm just going to rip it there quickly. Doesn't have to be perfect. And even these wax papers eventually become so stained with color that they too can become a very nice element to play with. So let me show you what we can do with this paper. What I love about this packaging recycled paper is it becomes very soft when you work with the water and the ink, but it goes back to its strong state when it's dry, and it is quite a lovely paper to play with to create some interesting elements. So I'm just using the dripper here with some of my ink and just allowing, this is again that antelope brown, allowing it to spread on the paper. Adding a bit more water because I want the ink to flow like that. Wait, before I do another orange one, let's get some of this blue out. Just a drop here and there. And again, I'm going to use my script brush here because I don't want a controlled brush. I just want to spread some of this ink about so that it's not stuck in one place. And now we're going to add some orange. Now orange and blue are opposite colors, so it should just make a neutral anyway. But because this particular orange has a bit of titanium white in it, I think it has about powdery tone to it. It is a brighter color. So I'm interested to see what is going to happen as this flows into each other and as it dries. So I'm going to put this aside, and then we're going to play with the jelly plate a little bit because you guys have seen me do this last week as well. Let me put this down somewhere so you can see how useful that wax paper is to create beautiful backgrounds. Okay, I'm just checking in my camera, it's still rolling. That is wonderful. So let me bring forth my jelly plate. Ta-da! Here we have it. If you don't have a jelly plate, you don't absolutely have to have one, but it is a great investment to get one in your studio in order to do some monoprints and create some beautiful, fabulous collage elements and paper. And with that, I'm just using my ordinary acrylic paint to create these beautiful prints. So if you're going to be printing on tissue paper, especially the napkin tissue paper, that's really fine and delicate, I do suggest that you use quite a bit of paint. I'm just going to use my brayer here to just move some of the paint around. And my brayer is also not completely clean, so there is a little bit of debris built onto it, so it creates a bit of texture. And then I always have an extra sheet of paper handy to just roll the excess paint off. And then I like to use maybe just the end of one of my paint brushes. Maybe that one is a bit thick. Let's get a thinner one, and let's just create some interesting script kind of language vibe. The Balinese language is quite curly, and I don't pretend to read, speak or write Balinese, but I'm inspired by some of the movements I see in their language, and I think there's a photograph I took somewhere of that. And then I will place the tissue paper on there very gently, and I'm going to work quite fast because I don't want this tissue paper to get completely saturated. So I'm going to pull it off immediately, and then I just take off some of the excess paint that I have on there, and this is a collage element that can now dry somewhere. And now I can come back here and use one of the stronger papers, which is the packaging material, and put that on there. And now I want to really just firm this down, because this paper is a bit stronger. It's not going to tear so easy. But I've also learned through trial and error that if you pull off your paper, if you've pressed it down and it's quite damp, so you can put your hand on there and you feel it's quite cold, I've learned that if you pull that off, the paper can tear, and that can be quite frustrating. So depending on the environment where you are working, maybe it's winter and it's cold, then you might have to just warm up your plate a little bit by brayering it a bit, and just check in on the paper the whole time to see if it's stabilized, it's dry enough. I find that if you add a bit of a dryer to it, not to heat it up excessively, but just to allow the paint to really bind with the paper, that I have more success at a clean pull. So I'm just gonna protect my other free papers here, and I'm just bringing my hairdryer on a medium heat here just for a minute. Feels good. The paper feels dry again and not so clammy. And then very gently we're gonna pull the paper away. It might not lift everything from the plate, but that's also perfectly fine. And there we have a very nice collage element that we can play with. So obviously you can print over this again if you want to make it more exciting. You can add some ink over it later when it's dried. So the opportunity for you to create something unique and beautiful for your art journal is endless. So I'm going to put this away to let this dry.